Tommy, good
How's it
evening.
going? How you doing, man?
Winter is coming, baby.
Yes, and they definitely showed up with their high expectations in last night's episode.
Absolutely. And I also heard it was a little bit cold outside over there, too, which is pretty fitting for what was going on with the show. But first, you know what we always do. Let's get the show started with a little bit of music, why don't we? Well. What a big show that we had last night. But before we get into it, Tommy, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Honestly, I don't know if I've been this excited as a wrestling fan since CM Punk dropped that pipe bomb back in 2011. I mean, this is wrestling's finally going to become water cooler talk again, and it's awesome to be a fan of it.
This is basically the biggest moment that I've seen since CM Punk, for sure. And then I guess you could throw in Lesnar Taker. That was one of the biggest talks for WrestleMania 30. But there really hasn't been some major things that leave us uh, hanging like
Yeah.
last night, for sure, which we're going to get into.
And it's crazy too that there is something that happened, a debut that isn't even being as the most talked about thing from the show. At least from my viewpoint, I think that what happened at the end was the biggest taking point. But man, what an episode of Dynamite! I mean, they came out guns blazing with the battle royale, and it didn't stop.
Yeah, we had a great show. And, not a whole lot of stuff. I mean, listen, I should take a step back for a second. There was a lot that went on, but not at the same time because we only really got about 5 segments because we had Moxley and Omega that took up about 40 minutes of the show,
Yeah,
maybe slightly more. But we'll get into that. 20-man battle royal. We had a pretty interesting battle royal going on. The remaining two face off to get the AEW Dynamite ring that Miz has been wearing for the past year. So they're doing that. They did that battle royal again. They're doing that match next week on AEW Dynamite. The winner will receive the ring. So I guess Miz will still carry his for sure. But we see towards the end of the match, MJF eliminates fellow Inner Circle member Sammy Guevara and Jungle Boy. Orange Cassidy eliminates Wardlow via the Superman punch. And then we're automatically down to the last two. Orange and MJF win. Orange Cassidy eliminates Wardlow, which I thought was pretty cool.
yeah,
So it turns out that Orange Cassidy and MJF will be facing off each other next week. So MJF has the chance to win a second ring.
yeah. He's gonna defend his. I don't know. Is it his second ring or is he defending his ring?
I want to say it's his second ring.
Okay.
I don't think he loses his ring. I think he
Okay.
keeps what he had.
It's kind of like a keeps. Kind of like if you win the. Well, I guess I don't know. Maybe the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. It's just kind of something that you hold until the next year until somebody else holds it, and then you can keep your
Yeah, I
second.
think it's like one of those things with like the green jacket that the PGA
Yeah.
Tour does. You win your green jacket, and then next year the guy that wins gets his own green jacket,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
That's a
and what
good. That's
have
a
you.
good.
So I think that's the concept AEW is doing with the ring.
Yeah, that's a good way to compare it.
So imagine MJF. I can totally see this happening. Walking around with two rings after next week could
Yeah,
happen.
fits the character.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what did you think of the battle royal? How do you feel about the MJF Orange Cassidy? How do you feel about that pairing going into that match before we move on?
Yeah, man. My biggest gripe with battle royals is you just get a lot of filler from the roster, and you get a lot of guys who are just kind of standing around waiting for their next spot. This one I didn't really feel like it had either of them. I really felt like the 20 men who are in it all had a reason to be in it, not just like, hey, we need to get them on the show. Matt Hardy, Guevara, Wardlow. I mean, Hangman Page was in it, Miro, Kip Sabian. You had a lot of good guys in this match. Thought there were some really good spots. Kind of surprised that Hangman got eliminated as early as he did, honestly.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. He got eliminated halfway through.
Yeah, I think it means that it's almost a shoe-in that he's going to be joining the Dark Order, which would be cool. I'd like to see that, you know, with his character. I think they need another big-name guy to go along with Brody Lee.
Hangman would definitely add a lot to that for sure.
Yeah.
And another big takeaway with this was the dissension with the Inner Circle.
Yeah.
We saw MJF eliminated fellow Inner Circle member Sammy Guevara and Jungle Boy at the same time. So that caused a little bit of riff. One of the first riffs of the night. This was another one later on.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of seen Sammy Guevara be one of the few of the Inner Circle who wasn't always agreed with MJF joining the group, and we kind of see that come to a head against Ket Kier. And you mentioned, there was something that happened later on in the night that we'd get to that kind of, I don't know, it could shift the future of the Inner Circle. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a great opener. We see a lot of tag team matches to start. This was a good, kind of start just to get ready for the night. But I like MJF and Orange Cassidy. I don't really know who wins. That's a tough one. It seems like they keep wanting to push Orange Cassidy, and then they kind of take it away from him almost. So, I mean, he's getting another high-profile match here against MJF next week. But yeah, I thought it was a really solid opener for what was a really good show.
Yeah, very good opener. So, really quick, we have a comment from one of our followers, Bad Eyesight. Thank you so much for following us. We appreciate you, man. Yeah, I totally agree. It was a crazy show last night. The way they built it from beginning to end, I was absolutely pleased. So yeah, we'll touch on the craziness that went on, and that's about to go on next week for sure. Yeah. It just doesn't end after tonight, which is brilliant booking by AEW. But yeah, let's transition to that Chris Jericho versus Kazarian match. We see Chris Jericho. Man, that backflip, it looked like a Spanish fly that Kazarian did in the corner, that spot off the top rope with Jericho. Unbelievable.
Good, man, Kazarian doesn't get a lot of praise, but he is a solid worker. He's one of the better veterans on the roster, and it was nice to finally see him get this match. I was honestly surprised that they have never fought off or faced off before, in their careers. So it was good to have this match here.
Absolutely. And I was kind of surprised that Jericho did a spot like that. You don't really see him get off the ground too much nowadays. Everything's all like on the ground. You don't see many hot spots out of Jericho. So when you do nowadays, it's kind of like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But listen, I think we can both agree he's got to lose that gut.
Yeah,
because I'm just thinking
weird,
to myself.
Man.
I'm just thinking to myself, like, what we could potentially get out of Jericho if he were about 25 pounds lighter than what he is right now.
Yeah,
it's all they're drinking every Saturday night in the Saturday Night Live.
It's a little bit of the bubbly, man. It's a little bit of he's drinking his own stuff. Yeah, it's funny because I'm actually watching the 2001 Rumble where he had a ladder match against Benoit. And it's crazy, man, how much different he looks and how different his style is from where it is now. But, I mean, yeah, it's still a good match. I thought, it was enjoyable for where it was in the card. And obviously it led to some more storyline development with the Inner Circle.
Yeah, let's talk about that. There's more dissension going on with the Inner Circle. We see more dissension. Miz wanted to throw in the towel, and the guy from Inner Circle didn't want that. Because Kazarian had Jericho right in the submission hold.
Yeah.
And Jericho was almost about to tap out, and that led to dissension at the end of the match. Of course, Jericho wins with the Judas effect, which is an awesome move. I love it. But this leads to dissension, leading to what's going to happen next week
Yeah.
on AEW Dynamite. There's an ultimatum. There is going to be an ultimatum segment next week on Dynamite, and basically, these guys have the ultimatum to get it together, or Inner Circle's done.
Yeah. And I love it, man. You know, we talked about it a few weeks ago when they did this Jericho versus MJF match to join the Inner Circle. I think this is it, man. I think this is a time where Jericho kind of goes on his own. I think the Inner Circle stays, but somehow MJF, becomes the new leader.
So, do you think this leads to a power struggle?
Yeah, I think it does, and then I think
Yeah.
by the end, I think by the end of the night, I think Jericho's kicked out. Honestly, I could really see Jericho be going on his own way after this, which would be good. I'd like to see another MJF versus Jericho match, and then Jericho can get with some of the younger guys like Pac, and there's a lot of opportunities there.
Do you honestly think that ends that soon with Jericho, with the Inner Circle breaking up? Jericho not the leader anymore.
I think so,
Because I
man.
was thinking that could possibly be more for like a long term storytelling, long term booking. And I think they go that route. I'm just not too sure if it would happen that quick.
I think they've kind of been building. The reason I say that is because I think they kind of been building to it since MJF. The thought of MJF joining the group was what started because I forget if it was Santana or Ortiz. One of them and Sammy Guevara were the two against him joining the group, and then now they're joining the group, and we're seeing that dissension, on a week to week basis. So I don't know, man. I really do think that we could see. I think Jericho's time with the Inner Circle is on a short leash anyway. I just think with how much things have moved in a storyline progression way in AEW recently, I just could see them really doing this and setting up for a pay per view match at Revolution. It has to build off at Revolution. That's what I have to say. If it doesn't happen next week, I think it's gonna happen. We're gonna get MJF versus Jericho at Revolution. I just don't see a world where that doesn't happen.
Do you think that Inner Circle is setting up Jericho?
Uh, I don't know if it's setting up, but I definitely could see that they're using Jericho in a way to have they're kind of trying to do the whole we don't like him but we really want him to be our leader, and it's just a thing you need. Not that MJF needs that rub, but MJF's career versus Jericho's career. I mean, it's two different things. If MJF becomes the leader of the Inner Circle, gets that win over Jericho at Revolution, I mean, that just skyrockets his career. He's in a high-profile program with some of the best guys in the business, and he gets that. So yeah, I think I don't know if setting him up is the right word, but I definitely could see them being behind this turn when it all happens on TV.
Yeah, I would absolutely have to agree. They're definitely heading in a direction. I think we can both agree on they're both heading in that direction.
Yeah,
MJF looking like he's going to be the next leader of the Inner Circle. The timeline, I guess that remains to be seen.
yeah, which is good. I mean, it's so different. I wanted to say this at the beginning of the show. It just watching AEW as a fan of wrestling for so long, it's just so refreshing, man. It just feels like every show there's something impactful happening. There's something that's important in the storyline, or there's a new debut, or there's something else happening. It just feels good to be a wrestling fan watching AEW, man.
It absolutely is. I mean, I had an argument with, well, not an argument, but a little disagreement with somebody on Facebook regarding this. AEW is doing an awesome job with the long term booking, and they also know how to hook you
Yeah,
for the next show. They leave you wanting more, and
exactly.
they have 2 hours a week to work with, not including dark, but they leave you wanting more.
Yeah,
And that's what I love about AEW right now.
yeah, and it's not saying that WWE can't do that or hasn't done that because obviously they've built you know, the wrestling business is the WWE. If there wouldn't be a wrestling business if it wasn't for the WWE. So obviously they've done a good job at doing that. But it's just AEW just feels different over the stuff that we've seen the last few years, and it's just so cool.
Yes, it is absolutely refreshing, and it's also refreshing for wrestling fans to not have to be stuck watching WWE, but to also have an alternative. We also can't forget how awesome NXT is. They've been knocking
Oh,
out of the
for
park
sure.
every week,
Yeah,
but that's not run by Vince. You
yeah,
know, there's different hands on that, which is why NXT has been so good every single week.
yeah.
Um, but moving on, we're not going to spend much time on the next topic because we're going to get to the good stuff in just a couple moments. But for those of you guys that are watching, please give us a follow on Twitter at Deep6W. We're also available on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. Um, so we had Britt Baker versus Layla Hirsch. Britt Baker looked awesome last night.
Yeah.
Any comments about that before we move on?
Yeah, this is the thing. This is what I keep going back to. Just how different AEW feels. Is even when it's the least built up part of the show, I guess. Because obviously, yeah, honestly, of the five segments, it's definitely the least built up part of the show. There's still something that happens. We saw Thunder Rosa come out and attack Britt Baker. You're creating that storyline progression with these two that they've kind of been going at it for the last few weeks. I thought Layla Hirsch looked good. I've never seen her before, so it was nice to see her, get an opportunity against a really good wrestler in Britt Baker. But yeah, man, this was for what happened, for where was placed in the card between the two matches, the Royale and Kazarian and Jericho, and then Darby and Rhodes versus Hobbs and his name is escaping me. Starks, and then you have
Yeah,
the
Ricky
main
Starks.
event. I mean, this was a good transition, and I think that's what you want to see in wrestling shows. Is a lot of people call it like the bathroom break in the middle of a wrestling show, and I don't think that's what this was. There was still storyline progression, and there was still something that
Absolutely.
could keep you entertained. I mean, for me, I wish the women would get more screen time so I could, care about their storylines, and I think that that's something that they're still continuing to work on. But yeah, man, I had no problem with this match.
Yeah, and not to mention we have Sheeta. Sheeta is has a new number one contender, Abaddon. What a creepy little character that is.
Yeah, man. I mean, I still don't really
Man.
know what her character is. I guess it's I don't know. It's weird, and I know she's going to be in action next week, so maybe I'll get a chance to finally see what she is like. But yeah, man, it's good. I just think that there's too many stars on the women's roster that aren't stars yet, if that makes sense. Like, they have talent, they have the potential, but they haven't built them up to that point yet. So I'm hoping to see a few more challengers that are different from the ones that we've seen for Sheeta's
Oh,
title.
absolutely, absolutely. I felt for a while that Sheeta was getting a little bit of the same challengers. We've seen her against Nyla Rose a couple times already.
Yeah.
They need to move away from that for a little while.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah,
what's the girl's name with Kip Sabian? I know her name.
Penelope
It's just
Ford.
Penelope Ford. I like her. I think she could be really good. I think she's done some good work in the
Absolutely,
ring.
she's done some great work.
Yeah, and she's somebody who you can build a story around. So yeah, I totally agree with you. I think if they give her, there's a lot of talent on that women's roster that just isn't getting the chance to showcase it because they're being put on dark, or they're being put in tag matches. So yeah, I'd like to see some more challengers. So maybe Abaddon will be that next challengers, that
So
next big
let's,
challenger, I guess. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they'll probably, they're probably headed to Sheeta versus Britt Baker down the line. I'm not too
Yeah.
sure how soon. A Revolution might be a little ambitious.
Who
Too
if it's not
ambitious.
her at Revolution, who do you think it is? I just don't know of anybody else who you could who has been built up enough that she hasn't faced. If that makes like we don't I don't want to see another Nyla Rose versus Sheeta match. Maybe I don't. Maybe Thunder Rosa. Maybe that would be something that we could see.
Yeah, you could definitely go there. I mean, you could even throw Britt Baker in there.
Yeah,
I just don't know if she's ready to hold the title just yet.
yeah,
I'm not too sure. That's a tough one.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But moving on, let's get to the good stuff. Why don't we?
Man, talk
Because this
talk
is
about good
where
stuff.
the show took a turn at 9 o'clock hour.
Yes.
We had Cody and Darby Allen versus Powerhouse Hobbs. I guess that's his new nickname. Doesn't he remind you of Ice Train from WCW back in the day?
Yeah, he kind of gives me a little. I thought it was funny. He gives me a little Steiner vibes, man. He even did the Steiner push ups, fully bought into the heel stuff. I love it, but I don't like the nickname. What's wrong with Will Hobbs, man? Powerhouse Hobbs? Like, that just sounds gimmicky, man.
Yeah, it's a little hokey. But we got Cody and Darby Allen versus Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. But the bigger story here was when Hobbs was about to hit Cody with the chair. The lights go out. The screen shows up with a nice wintry forest. The snow starts to fall. Hence, the winter is coming. And then we get Sting showed up right on the Titantron.
Dude,
And oh my gosh, I was popping. I was watching
man,
this
I'm
on a
right there
watch
with you.
along. I was watching this on a watch along with another podcast crew, and it was everybody was in shock.
Yeah,
Nobody saw this coming.
it, man, it's crazy because when I sit here and think about it, I think of those moments that have actually made me pop. The ones that are like, that's crazy. I never expected that in a million years. We've heard the rumors. We know that Sting was let go of his contract with WWE. We told he couldn't wrestle, and I still don't know what the future holds for him. But they said they signed him to a full time, multi-year deal. Dude, that was just so insane. I mean, literally, like, for the first time in a while, I felt so just like vindicated as a wrestling fan. Like, I've seen enough like bad stuff on wrestling that it's just like that was a moment that I don't know if anybody knew was happening. And for obviously except for the people who were there, but for Tony Khan to come out and say, "Oh, the balance of wrestling is going to be shifted," and I think that was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I think that return that came back was Pac, and it was like, yeah, that's cool. We were glad to see Pac, but it was nothing special. But man, I have to finally admit it. I really do think that the balance of power in wrestling is shifting. I mean, this was just so cool. I'm so excited to see what Sting does. And it's even cooler for you're older than me. I didn't get to see Sting when he was, popular in the 90s, early 80s or late 80s and early 90s. I only saw Sting when he was, some recaps and stuff, and then he came into WWE and was it 2014? I think that sounds right. Survivor Series 2014.
Yeah, right around there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I never got the full extent of Sting's career, but it was still so cool as just a wrestling fan. Like, that tells you how much of a legend he is that he's almost 65 years old, and him coming out not only was, cool as hell, but it wasn't even the best part of the show. I mean, there was so much cool stuff that happened on this show and so much, like, cliffhangers. Next week we get to see what he says in his first promo.
Yeah, yeah. They
I'm
announced
so
that it's
excited.
coming out next week. So there were a couple of interesting dynamics here. We see the FTW crew flee away from the scene. So
Yeah.
then all you have left is Arn Anderson, Cody, Darby Allen. Each of them are in the ring. Um, Sting confronts each and every one of them. I loved the face to face between
Uh,
Sting and Darby Allen.
Darby, yes, dude. Oh my gosh, if they put them together, if he's like his mentor or something, that'd be so good, dude. But yes, I 100% agree. It was just such a cool moment, man. I mean, it was just such a cool moment to be a wrestling
And
fan.
you know what they say? Hindsight's 2020. The last couple of weeks, you've seen Darby Allen hanging out in the rafters just chilling. That's what Sting used to do.
I didn't even think about that. And it reminds me of they've been compared for their entire careers. I think it was, I want to say, leading up to WrestleMania 27. Undertaker came out, and him and Triple H just had a stare down. No words said. They hadn't seen Undertaker since, for a few months, and it was just cool. Like, it was just so cool as a wrestling fan to finally see, they had a match in some matches previously, but this was a big WrestleMania match. It just felt same energy here, man. Like, Sting didn't have to say a word. He didn't have to get physical.
Nope.
Just pulled the bat out and walked around to all four members in the ring. They kind of highlighted the fact that him and Arn Anderson have had a history, which is it's funny because actually it seemed like Anderson took a lot of bumps last night compared to like anything he did in WWE.
Arn Anderson last night was getting into some brawls.
Yeah, it seemed like he was taking more bumps than he ever did in WWE.
He was throwing some punches. He was defending himself pretty well.
Yeah, I'm intrigued to see if I don't think he'll ever get back in the ring or anything like
Arn's
that.
Done.
But
Arn's done.
It would be cool. It would be cool to see, them have a little bit of a interaction. Whenever if Sting does get back in the ring, it's weird to say if not when for Sting, but
so
I just can't say enough about it.
What do you think Sting's role is going to be going forward?
You see, that's tough, man, because if you're AEW, you're not bringing him in just for, the one quick ratings boost that they got last night and that they'll get next week, and then because of his promo, and then he's just kind of going to be a backstage figure or something like that, or a coach. Kind of like what they did with, Dean Malenko or Jerry Lynn. They just kind of brought them in, no fanfare, nothing like that. This is the kind of guy that you're going to put on TV, especially if you've signed him to a full-time, multi-year deal. I don't know, let's say he's got 2 years on his deal, at least 2 to 3. Maybe he gets in, I would say maybe 5 matches. It's tough, man, because you got to be extra protective when it comes to him. We saw what happened with him and Seth Rollins at Night Champions. Yeah, I could see, let's say 3 years. I'd give him 5 matches, and these are high-quality matches. I mean, like, against the biggest of the big. I'm sure he'll have a match against Cody. I'd love to see him have a match against Kenny. Give a young guy like I don't know, maybe an Orange Cassidy, Hangman Page, somebody like that. Give them a rub, give them a big win over him. But Sting cannot go into what they did in WWE and have him lose both his matches. He has to have some sort of credibility, or you brought him in just for a ratings pop. So he needs to. I'm not saying win every match or be on TV every week, but he needs to be an important character that, if he does wrestle, gets those wins sparingly.
I think you could have him go in some tag team matches, because this way you can let the other guy do a lot more of the work. As far as Sting doing a one-on-one match, I mean, listen, he can't be doing any he can't be taking any buckle bombs for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he could probably work a match or two with a couple back bumps. You can't have him go in with just anybody.
Yeah. He's got to be in a match with somebody
that being
safe.
said, I think we see him more of a tag team role. I could see him tagging with Darby Allin, for sure. Let Darby Allin do most of the work. He's the healthier, more agile guy. And you have Sting come in a couple times and get a couple spots.
Yeah, get a hot tag or something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sting could definitely work a match. I just don't know if it would be in a one-on-one setting.
Yeah, and that's the thing is he's so old that you know that he's had an injury history that you cannot do anything that's going to put him in there. You can't put him in there with a guy who's green or any sort of green. I mean, this has to be the most protective wrestlers if you're going to put him in a singles match that there can be. I'm talking guys like Omega, guys like Jericho, guys who are legends of the business and have made their careers in this business, but can give Sting a good match while also protecting it, because that's the thing. You can't make an investment like this. Obviously, we don't know the salary, we don't know any of that stuff, but You cannot make investment like this just for a ratings pop. This has to have some sort of payoff, and if he is going to wrestle, let him go out on a few really good matches because there's a lot of guys on this roster who can give him that.
Yeah, I absolutely think he's going to do a little in ring work, but nothing too crazy. But I think we're gonna get some good workout. I could see Sting being a special enforcer, like almost like a commissioner role, like the type of guy that um, is law and order, so to speak,
Yeah, yeah.
enforcing some law and order in the ring. I could see something like that.
I wonder if we're gonna see something in the sense of the main event mafia when he was with TNA. I don't know if you ever caught any of that, but just a bunch of
Bits and
legends, man.
pieces.
Yeah, just a bunch of legends. Kind of, they didn't need to be in every storyline, but they all had a storyline, and they were a main player. I mean, they were the main event mafia, but they were a main player in TNA for a while. So I think we're going to see a lot of Sting. I just again I keep saying it, but you don't make this move if you're not looking to actively pay it off. You can't just have this for a 2 week ratings pop.
So let's talk about the ratings pop, by the way,
Yeah,
because before we get into the main event, because we did get a little bit of a ratings pop. Um, AEW did about 988,000 viewers, almost a million viewers last
yeah,
night, as opposed to NXT. On NXT's Go Home show, did under 700,000, which I believe is around 685,000, somewhere
yeah,
around there. Um, AEW had the better show, of course,
yeah.
the way it was promoted, but about 250,000 viewership difference. AEW also won the 18-49 as
Yeah, man.
well.
Going off that, I really do think we're gonna see something crazy, something special happen at War Games this weekend because I think they know that. Okay, now we're really starting to get into it. Now you're gonna take some of our talent that we've had in our backlog. I mean, Sting was promoted for a WWE video game. I mean, like this is a big thing in the wrestling world, and it's crazy. It is so crazy to sit here talking about this. Going into the show last night, I thought it was just going to be another kind of pay per view style Dynamite, like they did with Fight for the
Yeah.
Fallen and stuff like that. Man, this was one of the coolest moments I've had as a wrestling fan in a long, long time.
Oh, how can we forget the call that Tony Schiavone made?
Yes,
If you guys didn't hear that, I suggest you can find it easily on Twitter. Tony Schiavone's reactions was priceless. He was so excited. His voice went up a whole nother octave. And hey, listen, that was Sting's first appearance on TNT
19 years.
in yeah, since
Yeah, man.
in 19 years.
His last match on I did a thing for Back Sports Page. I did my review for AEW last night, and his last match was on TNT was on the last episode of Nitro against Flair. I mean, that's crazy, man. It's just crazy not only the fact that he's had such longevity in his career, but it's just like we're still sitting here talking about him, and he made a debut, and it's the coolest thing in wrestling, in a long time. So, well, until the main event happened, at least to me, I don't know. I don't know about your thoughts on the main event and what
Yes.
happened after, but
So we are absolutely going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about that. But those of you guys that are watching, make sure you follow us on Twitter, Deep6W. Also, our podcast page, Deep Six Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can find us on Facebook for all the news and updates of when we're doing our shows. So let's move on. Let's talk about the main event, AEW Championship on the line. This was hyped up for weeks. John Moxley's had the belt for such a long time now. You kind of knew something was gonna go down. You kind of had that feeling of what was about to happen. But we have a comment of. Oh, no, we're not gonna get to that just yet. 40 minutes. The 9:20 started, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the match went on until just before 10. It didn't go past, right?
Yeah, I think it was 28 minutes. I think is what I looked at on Cage Match today. But yeah, man, they were given a lot of time, and it was good, man.
Rightfully so.
When 9:20 came around, I was like, man, we're already getting to a main event, and like you said, rightfully so. I mean, this match has been talked about. We've talked about it. Everybody's talked about it, and it paid off. I think they kind of left a little bit in the tank because there's obviously going to be a future match between these two. There's got to be another, match probably. I don't know if they hold off till Revolution. It seems sort of far away, but I mean, you never know with AEW, honestly. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was a great main event.
Yeah, a lot of false finishes. We got a good amount of time. AEW did have the permission from TNT to go a little bit longer
Yeah.
if they had to, so they had that leeway.
Which is cool, man. I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No,
like
you're fine.
that's just so cool that they can sit there and they go, hey, if this goes over 10 o'clock, we're not gonna miss it. Like it just gives a different feeling, Like if WWE goes on USA, it's done at 11. It's over, no matter what. And it's like with AEW, they're even giving you the thought of, hey, it's probably not gonna go over, but if it does, we'll still be here. I don't know. It just maybe that's just something I picked up on, but it just feels different.
So there's a couple things that happen, a couple different dynamics that happen that we got to talk about here. First off, Kenny Omega, what we appear to be an official heel turn.
Yeah.
I would say that sounds about right, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
think
would
we
say
could agree
so.
that he's basically heel. He's had heelish tendencies for the past couple months. Then we had Don Callis
Yeah.
out at the commentators table as just doing special guest commentary.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew, you had the vibe that Kenny Omega was going to win the WWE title, not to mention that John Moxley's had it for the past 8 months. So
Yeah.
you kind of had the vibe they were building to it. Hence the reason why they had the tournament and what have you. So I think the wrestling world pretty much had a feeling that Kenny Omega was going to win this title, but how they went about it was pretty cool. Well, first off, we see Kenny Omega, we see Don Callis come to the ring, interfering in the match, getting on the ring ropes. Referee's distracted. Don Callis is getting on the microphone. He drops it. Kenny Omega gets a hold of the microphone, hits John Moxley from behind with the microphone, knocking him out. Ref doesn't see it. And basically from there, we see Kenny Omega win the AEW championship. But so we got the dynamic of the heel turn there. And then Don Callis coming in. As soon as Kenny Omega wins that title, he is running for the hills. He is out of there.
Yeah,
Him
man.
and Callis, and it was cool. They had Tony Khan. Tony Khan was back there, and then a couple guys back there. So, but they're running out of the arena, and then so they're about to get interviewed, and no, they're just working towards their vehicle before they sped off. What I found interesting was, and it threw me off guard. Don Callis is like, we'll talk about this Tuesday on Impact.
Yes.
I'm thinking to myself, did he just like say the wrong night and wrong show?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm like, what did he just say? And so that threw me off for a loop for sure. So what did you think about that?
I made the comment about how Sting's debut is the second coolest thing. I mean, I love the match, but the aftermath, man, like you said, I mean, Callis and Omega were running. There were wrestlers like booing Omega, for what he did, because Omega's always like, oh, beat me in the ring, beat me in a real wrestling match, and then he cheats to win. Great heel tactic. I don't know if I've.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if I've ever actually felt like you can almost feel fans from like from WWE and from TNA going, what the hell just happened, or Impact, excuse me, what the hell just happened? It's like this is awesome. I mean, literally, we've always wanted these dream match scenarios with a company versus a company, a super show, WCW versus WWE or something like that, AEW versus WWE. We're getting Impact and AEW work on a working relationship. Don Callis, he's the vice president of Impact Wrestling. I don't know if I've ever, and this is no flack to Impact, but I'm just not into it. And I know Access TV isn't widely available to a
No,
lot of
it's
people,
not.
but it's like this is the first time I've ever actually sat there and said, "Yeah, I want to watch Impact," because you just have to know. You have to know what's gonna happen, man. You have to know if this is something where Kenny's gonna defend the title on Impact a few times. If there's actually a working relationship where we'll see more Impact guys show up. I want to see who attacked John Moxley a few weeks ago. I've heard a lot of rumors that it was the Good Brothers, which would be very interesting. Keeping that working together. Man, there's just this is it, man. This is the coolest I've felt being a wrestling fan, and I really do think wrestling is finally starting to get back into that pop culture. That huge pop culture demographic where it's going to start becoming water cooler talk again, just like it was with the Attitude Era. I mean, maybe not to the
Yeah.
same extent because you don't have a Stone Cold, you don't have a Rock. But I mean, this is just cool, man. Like, it's cool to be a wrestling fan again because there's so many people who I can tell you, unless if you work for either of those companies, I'm guaranteeing you not a single person expected him to say that.
We had a couple comments from David Smith calling Omega winning the title. We all kind of saw it coming. I think the
Yeah.
writing was on the wall that Moxley was definitely going to drop the title sometime. And especially now that him and Renee Young are expecting.
Yeah.
Renee Young is having a baby. Moxley's been a little bit busy during his quarantine time.
Yeah, exactly, man.
Oh, man.
The biggest thing that we're not even talking about, at least from my perspective, is once Omega moves on from Moxley, I think he gets his win again at whatever their next match is. Obviously, he's going to defend the title. Who does Moxley go up against? He's literally been the champion. He was undefeated for so long. He's faced everybody almost. Does he enter in a feud with Eddie Kingston again? Does he enter in with the feud with Pac? There's just so many questions surrounding this. It's just awesome, dude. Like it's so fun to sit here and talk about it with you because we're getting, we're so we don't know what's gonna happen. We really don't know.
I think they go the route. They may go the route is to find out who knocked out Moxley backstage. I think Moxley's gonna want to address that.
Yeah.
So they could easily jump into that storyline for now. Will Moxley even be on TV next week or the week after? We don't know. But I'm pretty sure he will. I just don't think Moxley's going to be tied into having that title for a while.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to somehow get to Omega versus Hangman because there's still a long-term story to be told there. Yeah. So, and then Dave also had, what do you think of Omega winning, going to Impact Wrestling on Tuesday? Well, we just talked about it. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see Omega on a different show. It's going to draw eyes to the Impact show for sure. I'm actually going to download the Access app onto Apple TV. I don't have it on cable over here, so I can't. Or I could just watch it a couple days later on the Impact app.
Well, it's on Twitch. They live stream it on Twitch.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
Yeah.
I go watch it on Twitch and see. Let me see. Next Wednesday, I'm working till like 9:30, so I'll figure it out. I'm definitely gonna check it out for sure.
Yeah, man.
That's next Tuesday. This coming on Impact. It's interesting. I'm very interested to see what's gonna happen next week for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see. Also, like I said, it's no slight to Impact at all. I know they got great storylines. They got a good roster. I just haven't been interested in it because it never was my kind of thing. I never was a TNA fan. I wasn't, Global Force Wrestling fan or anything like that, Impact. So there's going to be so many more eyes on that product. So it helps out both companies here. I mean, what if they do, Impact's champion, Rich Swann, comes in on AEW? I mean, there's just so many endless possibilities here that again, I keep saying it, but it's just cool to be a wrestling fan, man.
And not to mention, time and time again, AEW fans have talked about the possibility of AEW working more with New Japan.
Yeah,
I mean, getting a couple New Japan guys over. I mean, they already have the working relationship with ROH. You see, the problem is a lot of it has to do with the travel ban
yeah,
and the quarantine restrictions and what have you. So I think that's kind of part of the reason why we haven't seen New Japan get a little bit involved with AEW. But I think that's going to happen too.
yeah. And I mean, they have a relationship with the NWA. I mean, the AEW is really starting to take the fight to WWE. I mean, they're really not that they weren't making a name for themselves, but I mean, I don't as good as NXT has been and as good as their roster is. I
NXT is
don't
the best show all week.
yeah
And then I put SmackDown a second and Raw, the way Raw's been booked as last.
yeah, and I just don't. I don't want to miss Dynamite. Like I don't want to miss a minute of it. Like when it's live, because I just feel like there's so much cool stuff that happens that you can't miss it. I mean, I can go back and watch NXT the next day, but I don't know, man. It's awesome. It was a really really good show.
I thought we had a very good show. It lived up to its hype. This is a show we're going to be talking about for quite a while.
Yeah, balance of power, man. It might have shifted here, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's tough to call just because WWE is just such a big empire and their
Yeah,
global presence. That's going to be hard to counter. I think I'm not too sure if there's really one particular promotion that can take down or do a high degree of damage to WWE. AEW is on the right track, but now when you got the buzz happening with Sting showing up and um, Kenny Omega taking the
coming on
title
Impact.
from
Yeah,
AEW onto Impact, and Don Callis saying, you guys screwed yourselves," and what have you.
yeah. I saw
I'm
that. That was
looking to
good.
see what happens next week. So it's just good for them. I mean,
Yeah,
AEW is keeping it very interesting. So I'm very happy to what we're about to see next week. Hopefully,
yeah, man. Should be a really good one. I highly recommend if you did not watch this episode, you've probably already been spoiled. Still go back and watch it. I mean, this was a really good episode of Dynamite.
yeah. Where do we go from here now? So I think we could both agree that they're probably headed towards Omega versus Hangman eventually.
Yeah,
There was no tag team action really to talk
I
about.
know. Yeah, yeah. We saw. Did the Young Bucks get involved, or was I watching? Am I a week ahead or something like that? I might be a little shooting the gun, but yeah, man, it's weird because you see so much tag team action on AEW. We didn't see any of it.
Yeah,
I liked it
at
though.
least
It's
according to
different.
my notes, right off the top of my head, I don't remember a
Yeah,
tag team match. But yeah, like I said, there was about 5 or 6 segments. That was about it last night. And again, they started the main event early, which took up quite about almost a third of the show. But great episode.
yeah,
Um, Moving on, just to kind of give everybody an update where we're at. Um, we see AJ Styles, the number one contender to Drew McIntyre's WWE title, come TLC, which will be in just a couple of weeks.
yeah.
We have Takeover. I need to catch up. I gotta watch tonight's last night's NXT. I was actually honestly 3 weeks behind. I'm caught up until yesterday.
Yeah.
But we have
So
NXT
you know the
Takeover
major
this weekend.
matches. Yeah, you know the major matches.
Yeah, I mean,
What?
one of the major matches that sticks out to me right now is that we're going to be getting War Games
Two of them.
between, yeah, we're getting War Games Undisputed Era versus Pat McAfee, Only Lorcan, Birch, and Pete Dunne.
This has my Indianapolis, from Indianapolis stamp of approval, man. We've talked about it when it happened, Pat McAfee's got the gift of gab, man. He can talk. He had a really good, really, really good debut. I was honestly really surprised. And
He had a good debut.
now you throw him in a cage match. I mean, a War Games match. I don't expect him to do a lot of bumping, but I didn't expect him to do a lot of bumping the first time. This is going to be fun, man. It's going to be really, really fun. I'm excited for... Pat McAfee deserves it, man. I mean, he's one of the hardest working guys in the world, with everything that he's done. He's getting this opportunity to live out his lifelong dream as a WWE fan, and he kind of kicks some ass at it, man. It'll be good to see on Sunday.
It wasn't on WWE TV, but I heard him cutting a promo at one time on college football TV.
Oh, on game day, college game day?
Did it on game day a little while back. It was like a year and a half ago, maybe. And he was shooting on some team.
Yeah.
And I like, this guy, he's got the gift for gab. You'd be great at WWE. And sure enough, long and behold, he is working the mic on NXT, which has been great.
It's not even just like he's in a segment. I mean, he's in the main event segment almost every week. That is impressive. Like, that is beyond impressive for somebody from the outside world to have that sort of an impact. We're not talking a lot about TakeOver because of everything that happened last night, but I really do think TakeOver is going to continue to be another solid effort for NXT, and I really do think
TakeOvers are always the best.
Oh yeah, they're great.
He does.
And I think we're going to see something special happen because I think WWE knows that they need to make just as groundbreaking as they maybe not be able to pull off something like that, but there's going to be something happening. I just think they know that they need to do something to get people back talking about them.
Absolutely. And one other thing, how about Toni Storm turning heel?
Yeah, I like it, man. She's good.
I didn't see that. I did not see that coming. That's pretty surprised. Now she has herself aligned with Dakota Kai, and Raquel Gonzalez. So that's going to be interesting. On the opposite side, you'll probably see Ember Moon. I'm not too sure if they have something to do for Rhea Ripley, so she'll probably be in that match.
She had a really good debut. I think not a debut, but she had a good first War Games match. I mean, I'm pretty sure she was that was the time when Dakota Kai turned on. I don't remember.
Oh God! What's her name? Whoever's watching, if you could comment right now.
Yeah, I know.
With the cage.
Yeah, she kicked her through the cage. Dakota Kai. They almost look the same too.
I'm having a major brain fart right now.
I have to look it up, or it's gonna bother me.
Dave Smith, Bad Eyesight. If you guys are still watching, if you could come up with that name, God, it's at the tip of my tongue. I'm gonna kick myself for this.
I'm almost here. We go. Female wrestlers.
What
Tegan Knox.
Tegan Knox.
Tegan Knox. That's who it was.
Because I haven't seen her in a while.
I know, because she tore her other ACL. Yeah, man.
What a bad break for her.
Yeah, but yeah, Rhea Ripley had a really good first War Games match. So I if she is in this match, I expect to see some good stuff out of her. I think this is just going to be a really good pay-per-view overall.
Yeah, Io Shirai's been great. I honestly, I need to catch up. I haven't even, I'm not caught up with NXT.
So I'm not either.
Yeah, they kind of basically last night, solidified everything. But I gotta, it kind of like right up to the last week they had everything. Yeah, WWE booking for you, but. But NXT's been great. I'm excited for this weekend. But yeah, Tommy, any final thoughts at all as far as what we've been talking about with AEW and winter's coming and going forward?
Yeah. If you were spoiled by our show, go back and watch AEW Dynamite. If you're just now starting the show or you're getting to the end here, I guess this is my kind of thing. We need to put this as a disclaimer in the comments or something. Please go watch this episode of Dynamite. Even if you've seen it, or if you were spoiled, if you haven't seen it, man, this was awesome. This was so awesome. It's awesome to be a wrestling fan right now.
Yeah. I listen. We had. Let me make sure I spelled that right. Okay, cool. We had a great show. There you go. I put it there.
Just for me, thank you. I appreciate
Please
it.
watch Dynamite.
Yes, from Tommy. Merry Christmas.
Well, I mean, listen, we have a couple good storylines going on with AEW going forward to see what's next for Omega, to see what he's going to do on Impact, who his AEW challenger is going to be, which I believe in the future will be Hangman.
Yep.
When they get to that, in between, we'll probably see a return match with John Moxley, but I don't expect John Moxley winning that title back anytime soon. Probably not till sometime next year.
Yep.
And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week on AEW Dynamite with Jericho, with the Inner Circle, to see if they break up or somebody turns on Jericho. So that's going to be interesting to see as well. And then, of course, the comments of Sting. That's going to be
Huge.
so we're gonna have another good week of wrestling coming
Yeah,
up.
man.
SmackDown's been pretty decent. Raw, that's why we didn't talk about it too much.
Which I think is a running theme on this show because it's a slog. It's still a slog to get through, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
No, not at all. Deep Six Pro Wrestling Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed now on YouTube. Please, please, please share with your friends. I know you guys know a lot of wrestling fans. Send a link. Have them subscribe. We're also on Twitter. We can be followed on Google Play, Spotify, and iTunes. If you can't watch a YouTube video, it's on iTunes about a day or two later. So, guys, please check that out. Spread the word. That will help us out tremendously. And also follow Tom as he is on backsportspage.com to check out his wrestling reviews.
Yeah, man. Just had a new one go up today.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. We had some good viewership tonight. Thank you guys for so much for watching, and we will be back with you maybe by the weekend to review NXT. If not, by next week, we'll talk NXT and all the big happenings of AEW Dynamite. Tommy, thank you so much for hopping on once again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
And we will see you guys all next week.